All right, ready to dive into the tech world today. We're talking about a company you might not know, but you've probably used their products. Ever heard of Vestel?
It's funny how a company can be such a global powerhouse, but fly under the radar for so many people. We're going to break down how they managed to do it.
Yeah, and this deep dive is really exciting for me because we got that question from a listener who specifically wanted to understand how they became so prominent. So let's get into it. So, Vestel, they're a Turkish company, right?
Yeah, they are. They actually started back in 1984, a small TV manufacturer.
Oh, wow. So they were in on the ground floor of the whole home entertainment boom, huh?
Right in the thick of it. And get this, they were strategically located in Turkey.
I mean, think about it, Turkey. It's like the bridge between Europe and Asia. Perfect spot if you're importing and exporting goods all over the place.
Absolutely. Plus, their location gave them a competitive edge because manufacturing costs were lower than in other parts of Europe.
So they could offer competitive pricing from the get-go, smart move. But I'm seeing from these sources that 1994 was a big year for them, something about the Zorlu Group.
Yeah, the Zerlu Group, huge conglomerate in Turkey, they swooped in and acquired Vestel, really changed the game for them.
How so? I mean, was it just the money or was there something more to it?
It was more than just a cash injection. The Zorlu Group, they had their fingers in all sorts of pies, textiles, energy, you name it. So they brought a ton of expertise to the table and helped Vestel really scale up their operations.
Makes sense. I'm seeing here that Vestel adopted this two-track approach. They were making products for other big brands, OEM stuff, while also building up their own Vestel brand.
And that dual-track strategy was brilliant.
Hmm.
On one hand, they were like the understudies of the electronics world, learning from the best by producing for these big names, gaining invaluable experience.
It's like a paid apprenticeship, but on a massive scale.
Exactly. And that steady income from those OEM deals, that's what gave them the breathing room to invest in their own brand without taking on too much risk.
Hmm.
They were playing the long game, but they also made sure they were stable in the short term.
So they were learning the ropes, building their own thing, and then boom, early 2000s roll around, and they're suddenly major players in the European market.
It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. They went from 0 to 60 in the TV world, became a production powerhouse, one of the biggest in all of Europe.
Yeah, and it's not just talk. 2006, they were cranking out 20% of all TVs sold in Europe. I mean, what's their secret? Some high-tech factory working around the clock.
Well, their Manisa facility, it's huge. But it wasn't just about size. They were incredibly efficient. They figured out how to balance quality and affordability, which was huge for European consumers.
People weren't just settling for a cheap TV, they were getting a good product at a great price, which seems to be their thing, right? So what happens? They conquer the living room, become a household name. Do they just, like, kick back and relax?
Not Vestel. They were just getting started. They saw an opening, used their success with TVs to branch out. Mid-2000s, they went all in on home appliances.
Okay, so same game plan, different game. Take that winning formula manufacturing, understanding what consumers want, pricing it right, and apply it to fridges, washing machines, the whole nine yards.
Exactly. And guess what? It worked. Same reasons as before. Quality appliances that didn't break the bank. Perfect timing, too. After the recession, everyone was looking for value.
Talk about being in the right place at the right time, but it's more than just profits and market share. They're a major part of the Turkish economy now, right?
Oh, absolutely. Huge employer in Turkey, thousands of jobs. Their exports help the whole country.
It seems like the government saw that potential early on because they've really supported Vestel, especially with R&D, which makes sense, right? You want companies pushing the boundaries, you got to back them up.
Totally. The government saw Vestel as more than just a company. They were like a symbol of growth and technological progress. They poured resources into innovation,
Hmm.
especially energy efficiency, smart technologies, that sort of thing.
It's a win-win, but I got to wonder, when you're operating on the scale Vestel is, we're talking about that massive production city, how do you even wrap your head around managing something like that?
Well, they're really into this thing called vertical integration. They control almost the entire process themselves, from the drawing board to the assembly line. That gives them a lot of control over quality, costs, and their supply chain, which is huge in today's world.
So they've got this like self-contained ecosystem, pretty impressive, but even with all that, they're not afraid to collaborate, are they?
Partnership's been huge for them. Going global, you need to team up. You mentioned the OEM stuff earlier. They never stopped that, even as their own brand grew. They've worked with some big hitters, Toshiba, Sharp, Hitachi, to name a few.
So it's not just about going head to head, it's about strategically working together to reach new markets, expand their reach smart, but it goes beyond just manufacturing, right?
Absolutely. They've been very strategic with technology partnerships. Google, for example, they worked with them to integrate Android TV into their products.
I can see why our listener was so curious about this company. They're always one step ahead.
Well, they've caught up. The tech world moves fast. It's not enough to just keep up. You have to anticipate what's next, and that's what they're doing. They're investing in the future. Things like AI, the Internet of Things, 5G, the building blocks of a truly connected world.
So they're thinking beyond just the individual product. They're thinking about how all these devices can work together, create a seamless experience. But they're not just throwing tech at the wall and seeing what sticks, are they? They're actually focused on the user experience, which is crucial.
You got it. All this technology, it has to make sense for the everyday person. It has to be user-friendly, intuitive. That's what sets companies apart. And you know what else is becoming increasingly important to consumers?
Let me guess, sustainability. People want to know that the companies they support are doing their part, being environmentally responsible. So where does Vestel stand on that?
It's interesting you ask that because they've become a lot more vocal about their commitment to sustainability in recent years,
Yeah.
invested heavily in energy-efficient manufacturing, reduced their carbon footprint, even implemented programs for recycling their products responsibly.
So it's not just a PR move, they're baking it into their operations, their long-term vision.
And that's the kind of thing consumers notice that could be a deciding factor these days. But even with their European dominance, Vestel's been making moves beyond their home continent, haven't they?
It's like they have this global chessboard, always thinking a few moves ahead. They've been steadily expanding into new markets, particularly in the Middle East and Africa. They're not just dumping products, they're tailoring their approach, understanding local preferences, and keeping things affordable, which is a winning combination in emerging markets.
It's a smart move. Those regions have huge growth potential. Speaking of smart moves, though, there are always challenges, right? I mean, you reach a certain level of success, you have a target on your back, competition heats up.
Right, like they've climbed Mount Everest, planted their flag, but now they've got to hold on to that summit because there are a lot of ambitious climbers coming up behind them. What are some of the biggest challenges they're facing right now?
Well, you hit it right on the head with competition, the electronics world. It's a jungle out there, and it's only getting more intense. You've got established brands constantly innovating, trying to protect their turf, and then you've got this wave of Chinese companies coming in hot, known for their speed and their pricing.
So how does a company like Vestel, they're already at the top of their game, how do they not just survive, but thrive in that environment? What's their strategy?
It's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it comes down to anticipation and adaptation. They're constantly looking ahead, trying to predict the next big thing, and they're not afraid to make bold moves. They're pouring resources into research and development, especially in areas like AI, the Internet of Things, all that futuristic stuff.
So they're not just thinking about individual products anymore. They're thinking about a whole connected ecosystem, like your fridge is talking to your oven, which is talking to your washing machine.
Yeah, exactly. But here's the thing. It's not just about throwing tech at the wall and seeing what sticks. One of the things that impressed me when I was researching them was their focus on user experience.
Oh, that's huge. You can have the coolest gadget in the world, but if it's too complicated, people are going to put it in a drawer and forget about it.
Exactly. It needs to be intuitive, easy to use. That's where they really shine.
Right.
They're taking these complex technologies and making them accessible to everyone.
And it's not just about functionality these days, is it? Consumers, we're more aware than ever about a company's values, especially when it comes to sustainability. So how does Vestel stack up in that department?
It's interesting you mentioned that because they've become a lot more vocal about their sustainability efforts lately. They've invested a lot in making their manufacturing processes more energy efficient, reducing their carbon footprint. Plus, they've got these initiatives for responsible recycling. So it's not just about selling a product, it's about the entire life cycle.
So they're thinking about the planet, not just the bottom line, which is encouraging to see.
Definitely. And for a company like Vestel that's looking to be a global leader for decades to come, that kind of thinking is essential. Consumers are paying attention. They want to support businesses that align with their values.
So big picture, we've covered a lot of ground here. We've seen how Vestel came from humble beginnings, took some risks, made smart decisions, and really, against all odds, became a major force in the tech world.
It's a remarkable story, no doubt. They've shown the world what can be accomplished with a bit of vision, a lot of hard work, and a willingness to adapt. But as we've discussed, The journey's far from over. They're facing some serious challenges, intense competition, constantly evolving consumer demands.
So the big question on everyone's mind is, can they keep it going? Can they maintain this incredible momentum, stay ahead of the curve, and solidify their place as a true global tech giant?
That's the billion-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't have the answer. But what I can say is Vestel's story is a testament to the power of innovation, adaptability, and a bit of that entrepreneurial spirit. They've already defied the odds once, so who knows what the future holds.
That's what makes this whole thing so fascinating. It's a real nail biter. Well, there you have it, folks. Another deep dive in the books. We've explored the ins and outs of Vestel, a company that went from making TVs in Turkey to becoming a global tech contender. What a journey. Until next time, keep those mans curious and stay tuned for our next deep dive.